Welcome to Deciphering Distortions, the second in a series of 12-part podcasts by the Grand Council, brought to you by Ancient Future Today.
Well, it is a fine day where we are always, and a fine day and night and evening and twilight and every part of everything that you could think of, a paradise of all sorts of wondrous things where we are. And we trust that there is a slice of that where you are. And we would ask each of you to take stock of how you are today as you listen to our voices, all 1,200 of our light points, representing hundreds of thousands of thought forms that humans throughout the ages and far, far further back in your histories and herstories than you have been led to believe and have been brought to understanding of, for your true human history and herstory is far, far longer ago than you could possibly imagine. Hopefully that will be brought to light at some point in all of the breakdown and deterioration of the constructs and the narratives that you have all been working with for generations now. And some of those things are starting to come to light, the power structures on your planet, the corporate comings and goings and doings, and both nefarious as well as positive, and many of the other things, your space programs and your connection and contact with civilizations that are off planet from Earth, Gaia, in your galaxy. Of course, the ultimate arrogance as far as the rest of us in the multiverse are concerned, that one tiny little planet in one tiny little galaxy would think it was the only life form, and really truly believe that, many of you, is laughable in terms of the arrogance and laughable in terms of the how long has it been since you've gotten out of your neighborhood sort of perspective. For even if you are living in a suburb or a city and you never travel out of that suburb or that city, much less out of your rural areas where there are fewer people and much more space, many of you are not aware of a larger world. And this goes for all of you all over your planet, not just in certain countries or certain mentalities. Most of you do not go very far, even on your own planet. And this is not an indictment. It is not a negative or a criticism. It is an observation. And what that leads to is a distortion of your understanding of, first of all, your meaning as an individual amongst 8 billion or plus or minus, depending on the day and the truth of the census, people on your planet. The meaning of your existence. It has great meaning that you are on your planet at this time. For this is a time in history, herstory, where things are shifting. And you have been issued a spacesuit, so to speak, to be able to breathe on planet Earth, and the organs and the rest of your body that is adapted to living in gravity and breathing the various different sorts of air that you have on your planet. Some of the younger ones have come prepared to eat diets that are devoid of nutrients for the most part, to be able to eat higher proportions of refined sugars and other forms of sugar without being damaged, as the older models have been from the influx of that sort of thing in modern day. And for the pharmaceuticals to be, you are adapting to the high degree of pharmaceuticals that you have chosen to accept as they have been foisted on you. Many different things that many of you are not even aware of are choices. And so when we come to you with a podcast and a moment to consider distortions, it is almost as if we cannot speak about distortions because high degrees of refined sugar that have no nutritional value and typically will deteriorate the human health system within a being that is 20 years or older on your planet is, in our view, a distortion of what is right action for anyone, first to accept into their systems, well, first to create on your planet, then to market, then to advocate, then to provide and continue providing when it is proven to be deleterious to most of you, except for the much younger ones who are wired for the reality of too much sugar or a great deal of sugar in their diets. So we see this as a distortion, and we often marvel at how most of you who do ingest that sort of a diet, and even those of you who are healthy and health conscious, ingest way more sugar than you realize in some of your processed health foods. And those of you who are not health food sorts of people are ingesting enormous amounts of sugar in prepared foods, microwavable, this, that, and the other, your drinks, your this, your that, whatever it is. And we see this as a distortion, for your planet is designed to feed all of you 10 times over nutritiously through the soils, through the breakdown of the various different plants and trees and animals and sea animals and the minerals that wash down from your mountains, in your glaciers and in your rivers and streams that melt. And yet, so much of that has changed as well. Some of it a natural cycle of many thousands of years. Others of it chemically stimulated through various different things and industries and repeated assaults on nature. All these sorts of things we see as distortions of what you started with as a planet, lo, those trillions of years ago. The resets that you have gone through, which have happened periodically, thousands of years apart. The introduction of cycles and recycles that were planned and very carefully orchestrated by Creator to create a paradisical experimental station for all of you to learn and to explore and to gravitate to things that bring you more understanding of love than any one other thing could possibly do in a given lifetime on any other planet in the multiverse. So this is why Earth is such a popular place for some of you to return to repeatedly, is because you understand that it is one of the most productive playgrounds in the multiverse. Now, it is starting to take some doing for some of the older souls who have been coming and going and coming and going and coming and going repeatedly over the centuries and millennia to decide they are going to stick it out and keep coming back and coming back. For what is coming to your planet is inevitable, and that is change in futuristic sorts of ways that the old timers who have been the Aboriginals and their own ancestors, even as Aboriginals, or indigenous populations where they lived as part of nature. All of the old souls have done that repeatedly. And many of the old souls that are now again in indigenous space costumes and learning and teaching all that they know about nature and your planet are in the minority this lifetime. They are not the majority of humanity wandering the earth or establishing themselves and staying put where they establish. So whilst we are not really talking directly to too many distortions right now, what we are painting for those of you who are thinkers is to invite you to look at all of the distortions that you have the courage and the stomach to look at on your planet. What is distorted about your education systems? What is distorted about your child care and rearing of children on your planet? What about crime and safety? What about health? What about fitness? What about food, as we have said already, transportation, governance and politics, and. From your standpoints, much of it is distorted. That means that it is different than what you thought it was. And for many of you, it's distorted from what you think it should be. And as we said in the previous podcast on truth, unless you have a truth against which you can calibrate or with which you can calibrate, it is impossible to decide whether something is a truth or a distortion thereof, or if it is a distortion and a distortion of a distortion. So what do we recommend? Now that we have brought up how distorted distortions can be, we recommend that you go into your hearts, and whatever part of your heart is pure love for self, for planet, for other life forms, for life itself, that you find a calibration to that, even if it is a faint one for some of you. And for those of you who cannot feel that purity of love and that undistorted sensation of love for self and life, that would be your work, as far as we are concerned, to help yourself understand your truth. And if you are a lucky one, or one who has worked hard and is not so lucky as who is fortunate, to have found that sense of true love for self and life in all forms, then you have something you can begin to consider to be your truth, against which, and in opposition or in relation, depending on how you think, to gear yourself to understand what a distortion to that truth might look like, feel like, smell like, be like. So you know when someone makes you feel good, do you not? You know when you have said something to someone and it is not the kindest thing you could have said, or you didn't say what you said in the kindest way you could have. You know when something makes you smile that is very pure and very innocent and very, very delightful. And when you smile at something ironically, or you smile at something with a judgment in your heart. All three are smiles. All three mean very different things. And whether one is a distortion of a true smile or not is less important than that you understand that you are judging when you are smirking or smiling or grimacing or whatever you are doing. And that when someone else says, "What do you mean, buddy or girlfriend?" you're smiling at me as if you think I'm stupid. And you lie to them and say, no, I was looking at the person over your shoulder, just a right stupid individual. And yet indeed you were smirking at your friend. Then to own the distortion of what you know to be true, what they said they knew to be true, and what you said was true. Because you're not willing to own your distortion in that case. What if your friend said what we have just said? What are you doing smirking at me, judging me that way? And you said, well, what you said didn't make sense to me, so that's why I'm judging you. And then you could have a conversation around that if both of you are able and willing to work through something of a moment of that nature. And then you might be able to clear a distortion of understanding between you. Because clearly the distortion that was there before was, it's okay to lie to my friend. It's okay for me to protect myself from what they might say if I was just unkind. So the upshot of what we are saying to you, though there is no real logical thread through what we have said so far, the upshot is that you know when you are in your truth, and you will never, ever be able to judge accurately when someone else is in theirs. This is another truth we can tell you. You can get close if you know them well enough, and if your relationship is 100% authentic in that they tell you what they think to the best of their abilities and how they feel when they feel what they feel. And if you listen with deep listening without judgment, then your chances of understanding them are much greater than most relationships. And yet you will never know what, in truth, their truth is. And so what we ask you to do is to find yours, to live from that place, and to understand that everything else from that is a distortion, and there's nothing you can do about it, except just smile, hopefully with benevolence toward the fact that you can see that life is a series of distortions, to always go back to your own calibration of true love for yourself in life, and to offer that to others in everything you say, see, and do, everything you think, everything you offer, how you receive things from people. If you are successful in being truthful for the rest of your life, distortions will lose some of their sting. You will not spend nearly as much time in judging distortions, either from other people or from circumstances or systems or whatever. And you will begin to draw the power back into truth from distortions. It is a dance. And if you are a person who has a religious or spiritual dogma that you follow, and for you, Jesus is the truth, or Isaiah is the one who knew the truth, or whatever it might be, or Jesus is this or that, and you are not a Christian and you have a belief about that, and that he is the epitome of the truth teller, then you will live your life according to that and make sure that your way of being is just as truthful as you believe this man's truth was, or Muhammad's, or Zoroaster, or any of the others who are followed by many, many people in the world. Because if you can match what you admire and what you imagine that individual was like in truth, then you will be bringing a higher degree of truth into the mix with all of the distortions of all of the people who look at and say, well, he is the savior, or he is the reason that life is good, or that is the person to follow, or she is the this, that. And when you bring it back into yourself and you live the principles and the values and the truths, in quotes, that you are offering to the other to carry for you, then and only then will you be in a position to be able to see distortions that are all around you and within you, and all around and within others. And either you will choose not to stay in a milieu of distortion and you will find a way to live without so much of it around you, or you will just be able to find that place where you can allow life to be distortions or truths and or distortions, and be happy and be healthy and be wealthy and be peaceful and serene and excited and all of the other things that are your birthrights as a divine being in human form on a masterful journey. For this is indeed a playground where you are on your planet. In distortions and variations of distortions all the way to truths and back again are part of how your planet is currently structured. At least have fun with it, and please own it, that you are both a composite of truth and distortion. And the more conscious you become and you choose truth more often, which is only one singular truth, and that is you and yours, not you, yours, and everyone's, because it is you and yours. No, you know that your truth is as unique to you as your distortions are, as is true for every single other human being on your planet who has ever been there, ever lived there, and has ever left there, and who will ever come there and be there and leave there. It is a remarkable place to learn about love and distortion. And with as little distortion as we can possibly manage ourselves, all of our blessings and love. And for now,
Thank you for listening. Please join us for future podcasts on this same channel.